Welcome back to Stand Up Week. I'm going to be quiet in this one as well, because the only time I can film these is late in the evening, and my neighbors through the wall get up early because they have regular people jobs. What's that like? You know how stupid my LinkedIn is? This right here, yapping, is my only marketable skill. That's why rich people don't like me. I'm what they call the opposite of productive. I'm a personality hire. A bad one. But if you liked, loved, or hated my last video, you might like, love, or hate this next one. We're talking about Dave Chappelle. Now look, when we talked about Shane, I gave him his flowers, but I pointed out his controversies. Yeah, don't say bad things about Asian people. You'll miss your chance to be on SNL. Consequences exist. I usually give people a pass if they're trying to be funny. In fact, that's the rule in my stand-up writing workshops on my Patreon. Whoa! Organic plug. Yeah, this Sunday is going to be the first official Jake-led workshop, but the chat is always open, and people have been putting joke ideas in there, which makes my heart happy. I make sure that chat and my Not a Gross Discord chat, no one should just be a piece of shit. No one should be a bigot. But if someone's trying to make a joke, I'm going to give a little bit of grace, because that's where I come from. Anyway, back to Dave. Dave isn't just like one of the greatest comedians of a generation. He is one of the greatest comics of all time. And that's what makes this so difficult. When I used to think of the greatest comedians of all time, obviously you have your historical, significant, like we have to give these people flowers because without them, comedy today wouldn't exist. And those people are George Carlin and Lenny Bruce. People who used to go to jail for their jokes. Remember when people used to go to jail for those jokes? Comedians are fucking pussies these days. People got mad at me for saying this thing, and now I lost a couple $100,000, even though I still have a gajillion dollars and an expensive mansion. God, I'm so canceled. You can't do comedy anymore. Lenny Bruce was going to jail because he was making fun of religion, because he was saying cuss words, because he was doing jokes about drugs. He was doing what we would consider today tame. The police would arrest him for disturbing the peace. So, if you think you're a comic who's getting canceled, go fuck yourself. Dave Chappelle, up until his return, and even a few years post-return, was and is one of the greatest comedians of all time. He received the Mark Twain Award, very well deserved. I have Chappelle's show on DVD, swear on my life. Dave Chappelle in the late 80s was just a kid doing stand-up, super, super young. And so by the time he was like 24, 25, 26, that's when he was like doing Chappelle's show. I might be wrong in the exact ages, but he was like a young guy who had a movie. He did Half Baked. That wasn't good. Oh, I love Neil Brennan at the Mark Twain Award. Oh, talking about Half Baked. Oh, no, Neil Brennan is another comedy legend, and we should talk about Neil Brennan sometime soon too. Chappelle's show had sketches that were insightful about like race relations. I remember I was watching Talking Funny with 3 comics who have been canceled. 2 comics who I just don't think are as good as they used to be. And Chris Rock. He's great. I love Chris Rock. But Jerry Seinfeld said something very interesting to Chris Rock. Jerry, white, middle class to upper middle class upbringing, I'm not sure. I can assume. But he said to Chris Rock about one of his jokes about the difference between black porn and white porn. Stay with me. Black porn, the woman always looks caught off guard. Maybe she's got like a Band-Aid, And he's making a joke about, discrepancies between, race and class, But Jerry said, that's the first time I had ever thought about our worlds being different. And that was an earnest comment, not judging him for ignorance, but that's a brave thing to say if you thought that. And I think Dave used to do that so well. Dave used to have insightful, funny jokes about race and class and the mechanism, Hollywood, the industry. Oh, God, I used to be able to... I memorized a bunch of his jokes, and I used to just recite them because they're that good. My favorite joke he did, which exemplifies... This is a joke about... Okay, this is one of my favorite Dave Chappelle bits. Forgive me for doing it from memory. It's a joke about race. It's a joke about class. It's a joke about stereotypes, expectations, and it's so funny. He goes, now I could never call the police to my house. No, my house is too nice. The cops will show up like, he's still here. Open and shut case, Johnson. I've seen this before. Psycho broke in and hung up pictures of his whole family. Disgusting. All right, let's sprinkle some crack on him and get out of here. When did that special come out? Like 2004, That's still funny. Because things don't change. Things don't change, but Dave Chappelle did. When Dave Chappelle had the biggest blow up out of any comedian, Chappelle's show sold the most DVDs of any TV show, or at least for Comedy Central. Case in point, I have a fucking DVD. His specials were hilarious. He was in Mel Brooks movies at like 19. And even though his acting wasn't that great and Half-Baked wasn't good, his comedy, like his stuff with no filter, and it's just his vision, outstanding. The writing's impeccable, and the stage presence, you know, at the time was a little more subtle, a little more genuine, and had a little more humility than the Dave we see today. Dave Chappelle was at the height of his career, and because rich white executives wanted him to lean into the race stuff, oh my God, make fun of black people more. People love it. Dave went, whoa, 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 whoa. That's not what I was doing. Oh, do people not get it? Oh, no. Oh. And so they offered him $65 million for like another season, or at least a couple seasons. And he gets halfway through filming it, and he goes, nah, fuck this, not my vibe, bad. And he leaves. He goes home. When I say go home, I mean his house. He did also go to Africa. I wasn't trying to be weird and shitty. And what did the media say? Oh my God, he's crazy. He's on crack for turning down all this money because it didn't fit with his moral outlook. I don't know, man. I tried to learn from the goats. You know, money doesn't mean good. Popularity doesn't even mean good either. You know, it's just common denominator. You know, it's approachable. Dave thread that line between funny, insightful. There's a reason people talk about Dave Chappelle like he's a myth. And then he disappeared. That's what myths do. But you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And unfortunately, post 2016, 2017 Dave, that's what we have. Let's talk about modern Dave. I think Jim Gaffigan said it best when referring to Dave just doing trans bits, special after special after special. He said, hey man, people call me the Hot Pocket guy. That was one joke on one special. If I did 5 specials in a row where at least 10 to 15 minutes were dedicated to Hot Pockets every time, I'm not thinking, man, this guy really doesn't like Hot Pockets. As a comic, I'm thinking, do you have other things to say? Just write more. What are you beating this dead horse for? You know? I feel like whatever points Dave was trying to make on whatever special where he really went in on trans people are the same points he made constantly, just packaged differently. I didn't think they were good then. I don't think they're good now. If anything, I think they're worse because now they're trite. I think there's one joke that everybody collectively agrees is the only good joke made about trans people, and only because it wasn't like demonizing their right to existence and calling their validity into question. He said, some of these doctors are getting so good you don't even realize, you know, that it's beyond pussy. That's fine. You know? I think Eminem's in some hot water right now for doing a bunch of trans jokes in one of his songs, which at this point, it's just like, it's clickbait. It's hate bait, you know? Like, oh, I'm going to get a lot of clicks for going in on trans people because they're like the safest group I can make fun of and not get canceled, clearly. You know, we almost canceled Dave and he bitched and moaned the whole fucking time. I'm Dave Chappelle. You guys don't know. I'm a genius and y'all are just behind the curtain. No, dude, now you're a boomer. Oh, you hate to see it. But same thing I was talking about in Shane Gillis' special. You get some money. You get some success. You get an ego. You know, look, Dave is the GOAT, and he's self-aware. He knows he's the GOAT. When people give pushback on the GOAT, if he was just a little more self-aware, he'd take those criticisms to heart instead of doubling down. Because when you double down, it makes you look more like an angry boomer. He's also trying to kick low-income housing out of his neighborhood because it will bring down the property value of his house. That's a dick move. You know, Dave actually didn't grow up poor. I had to guess, I'd say upper middle class, but his parents are like professors. Like, they're smart people. Like, Dave comes from a family that read and wrote. So he's a smart guy. But sometimes it doesn't matter how smart you are if you let your ego get in the way, brother. Why do you have to die on this hill? It's tarnished your legacy. And you were so insightful on race and class. So why are you missing the mark so hard on LGBTQ stuff? And again, if the jokes were funny, I wouldn't give a shit. But he goes into his let me tell you something, young blood. You know, like that, like, I'm a genius and let me talk to you guys like I'm giving you wisdom. But the wisdom is bullshit I'd see on Facebook from my grandma. Like, fucking Dave, come on. Maybe I'll make a separate video about this, but this is a point I want to make. When comedians get rich, famous, and successful, it's a lot harder for them to be funny. Because comedy comes from struggle. Comedy comes from making observations that everyday people see because you're an everyday person. Every day. And conservative comedy is often not funny. I think the funniest comic that I like, who is a declared conservative, even though I don't really know if he's that into politics, I love Ron White. Ron White's great. But yeah, I think the same reason why there's not a lot of conservative comics who are funny. There's plenty of conservative comics, but I just don't think they're funny. Is because I think they fall into some of the same pitfalls that super, super left-wing woke comics fall into, and that's pandering, because they're so desperate to prove a point. And at least when left-wing comics do it, I think their heart's in a better place. You know, they're just saying, hey, you know, trans people exist. A hot take. But the Republican counterpart to that is like, no, they fucking don't. And it's like, I find neither of you funny. Can both of you write better jokes, please? Like, a joke should have a point. At least a good joke should. But the second that point becomes more important than the joke, you lost the plot. It feels like the point Dave was trying to make in his comeback is a dumb point. Like, it's just a dumb point, and he's special after special hammering it home. And I think his wealth and his legacy, his ego that isn't unfounded. I'd be really full of myself too if everybody and their mother's uncle told me I was a genius all the time. Nope, you haters keep me grounded. Appreciate you. Too grounded, almost. So goddamn grounded. 6 feet grounded, gotta tell you. Dave could have stayed gone, and there would have always been a hole left where one of the greatest comics of all time used to be. But instead, he came back, and he filled that hole, and filled that hole with a different comic. 12 years separated from the time he turned down $65 million because he was uncomfortable about the direction his race material was going, pushed by, the producers that were funding him, and instead took even more money to shit on a different group. And if you ask me, yes, it tarnishes his legacy, but what's more important to me is it really did a number on his comedy. No, what's more important is the effect he's having on trans people, but I'm a comic. You can keep liking Dave Chappelle. I watch his old clips all the time. I reference his old clips all the time. I still think he's one of the greatest comedians of all time. But nuance is dead on the internet, and I'm trying to bring it back. So if you like this video and you want to see more videos like it, then please hit like and subscribe. If you want to see me talk about other comics, your favorite special, maybe somebody who's not getting a lot of love, leave it in the comments. Let me know. And if you're not a Patreon member yet, then before Sunday, you should sign up, because if you want to write stand-up or be in the room when people are working on jokes, my Patreon is going to have a writer's workshop this Sunday. Now I'm going to run them, and if you like the way I talk about comedy and talk about jokes, then let's go work on some jokes. But if you don't have $3, $5, or $10 to spare, that's fine. Most of my content will be free right here. And all you have to do is like and subscribe. All that jazz. I appreciate you.